Yeah.
Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of the Metacast podcast. That is the podcast that explores itself, explores ourselves, and explores the self in general. My name is Ty. I am going to be one of your co-hosts.
And I am definitely here, girl. And my name's Distance, your other co-host.
And tonight is the Metacast movie show about Gone Girl. Gone Girl is a 2014 mystery drama. It's directed by David Fincher with a screenplay by Gillian Flynn based on Gone Girl by Gillian Flynn.
It stars Ben Affleck, Rosamund Pike, Neil Patrick Harris, and Tyler Perry.
With a budget of around $61 million, this had a box office take of $369.3 million.
With a tomato meter rating of 87%, with an identical audience score of 87%.
As I said, based on the 2012 novel of the same title, Gone Girl centers around Nick Dunn as he becomes the prime suspect after the disappearance of his wife. I feel like I've said this with a couple movies before, but I don't really want to say much past that for fear of spoiling things. I do not want, like spoiler Terry could very easily creep up in this episode, and I want him out of here. With that being said, this is, I think, a very fun watch if you go in not really knowing a lot. It is kind of a mystery movie. It definitely keeps you guessing. I would say in a not M. Night Shyamalan way, but in a good way. But yeah, this movie, I enjoyed it, honestly. I thought it was fun from beginning to end. I thought not only fun, forgive me, that almost downplays it. I think it was an enjoyable watch, and I think that it was also done very well. The quality of this, I think, is great. I think the performances were great all around. I think you can tell that the writing of the novel even is great based on the screenplay by the same author. Yeah, honestly, I'm a fan. With incredible performance by Tyler Perry. Did not expect him being so good in that role. There was a lot about this movie that really surprised me. So yeah, I do have to if I'm gonna give this one a verdict, I do have to give this one a yes. I think it was awesome. I think most people will find something to enjoy from this. And the theme here, I think I found something not only to enjoy from this, but something that I learned for myself that I could take away. How do you feel about this one?
I pretty much echo you on all that. The only thing that I would want to add, which I don't think will mess anything up as far as spoilers go, everybody's aware of the conflict resolution, plot devices that you see in films. And I think some of the best writing, and credit also to the novelist that wrote the book, the best writing leaves you desperately pining for the resolution. It creates such a dissonance with the conflict that you need the resolution to happen, and you have to just sit there wishing, pining for the conflict to be resolved in a way that's satisfying to yourself in some weird, almost kind of visceral kind of way. And this movie, I think it does a great job of really creating that tension in the conflict and really making you pine for that resolution, in a good way.
Yeah.
And I think it really delivers. Some of the stuff about it's kind of hard, to watch, but not gory. It's not hard to watch the way that Hostel or Saw could be hard to watch. It's a really different kind of cringe. Yeah. But yeah, it's a movie that I definitely would give a yes to for should you watch. And it's a hell of a lot better if you actually don't know really anything about it going into it, because I didn't. Aside from the fact that people use Gone Girl as a thing that you do, as a colloquialism, I guess, which I still don't understand. I should look that up on Urban Dictionary now. So yeah, great film.
With that being said, yeah, let's let Spoiler Terry come out and ruin this thing. So yeah, if you haven't seen it yet, go check Gone Girl out and come back and finish the rest of the episode. Yeah, so yeah, let's get into it then. So you did say, again, I feel like I'm it's been 2 weeks. We did have to take last week off. Hopefully no one missed us too much, but hopefully I'm trying to remember. This was the first time you saw this, right? You had not really known what to expect going in.
I wasn't even sure what it was about, honestly. Cool. I'd figured someone female disappears. That's all that I kind of figured, which does happen, and so many other things.
Well, it's kind of cool too, because that happens literally right away. So it's so it's like, like knowing that does not give away anything. That is like, literally, the very first part. Oh, Barry, spoiler Terry is only in post. I have to edit him in. He doesn't actually exist. But.
Yeah, he's Ty's imaginary roommate that's a better writer than him.
That is true.
Yeah. That he's going to find out in his adaptation of Airheads 2 novel, which is a thing.
But that dude, so like starting out, I'm gonna start my chronological notes, especially because I think this movie, like the intro immediately grabbed me. I love that first like inner monologue thought of Nick as he's like stroking her hair. I was like, oh, where is this going? Like that was just immediately like, it's somewhat off-putting, but in an intriguing way. I think like, it did not make me want to turn the movie off. It made me want to be like, oh, what, where the fuck is this gonna go?
Yeah, because the way that they sort of frame things, I guess, to begin with, is very like, it's very disorienting almost to the audience.
Yeah.
And that is one of those things like where, like I was saying, I mean, like they do such a good job of creating this like tension and like what's occurring, and they do such a great job of confusing the fuck out of the audience.
Yes.
Because by the end of it, and I've talked about this show on here before, it was on, I think they're working on the 3rd season now, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe so.
But You is a series that's really good at completely fucking up your moral compass.
Yeah. And
that's kind of what happens with this a lot of times. Is that you don't have this clear-cut good-bad idea, because like even children at a very young age, they want to know who's the bad guy, like who's the good one.
Yep.
And who am I, or WWE, like who is the villain?
Who's the heel? Who's the face? Lose? Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Who is supposed to lose? And I think that this does such a good idea. It does such a great job of creating the nuance.
Yeah. Well, I think
like what is really bad.
I think not only does it like do a great job of creating that nuance, but I think it does a great job of specifically taking advantage of your prejudices and constructing the story in a certain way where you are going to come to certain conclusions and assume certain things. And as the story unfolds, realize like, oh shit, I was thinking about this totally wrong. And I think that is like one of the most powerful things that media can do for us is like, I've talked about this before, but there are like those moments of realizing you're wrong about something are very powerful. When that happens with like an actual like belief you hold true, it can be a powerful moment, but it can also be like a very negative experience for a little bit because you are realizing that like a core belief of yours may not be true. So when we get to like test the waters of that kind of feeling with something that's as, frivolous as like the feelings we have about a character in media, I think that that's like a really cool thing that when constructed well, that good writers can do.
Yeah. So are you talking about because I mean, there's one of the things that's done in the film is they actually show you media coverage causing biases.
Yes.
Are you talking about that, or are you talking about the bias that you have just as a watching the film and seeing the plot happen, or both?
Specifically, I mean, I am specifically talking about just for the first at least hour of the movie. I think almost anyone watching this movie comes to the conclusion that Nick is guilty. And I think that is done in a very good way. That yes, there are multiple parts of it. I think that even without the movie showing the media coverage, that you would still come to that conclusion. But I think that is extremely powerful, the way they do that and show you that like here is this narrative being pushed by these certain media outlets that it's like you may question that. Like, hold on, has that ever happened to me? Like, did I watch some sort of coverage of a trial, and then I assumed I knew someone was guilty when I was not sitting in the courtroom the entire time. I only knew certain tidbits, like, yeah, and seeing how little tiny moments get spun out to a completely different narrative like that, where Nick, I mean, the lady that takes the picture with him backstage of that one event, and he kind of smiles because that's, just like nervously trying to look normal in a picture. And then of course, he even like tries to say like, oh shit, could you delete that? Like that may not look good. Like, and it's just interesting, the optics of things that can be so much different than the actual reality, and cause you as someone on the outside to form some sort of like idea that what's going on simply because of a narrative that's been told you. Yeah.
OJ.
Yeah. Right.
OJ. Sorry, I had a craving for orange juice. Yeah,
I think Casey Anthony's another great example of that. I think there was like, any of those cases where, the media is a big part of it. And, depending on how intimate you are with the case, no one is given as much information as the 12 people on the jury. You know what I mean? So it's like whether or not you agree with them or not, it's like there were 12 people that came to a decision that you disagree with, and they probably had more information than you. So
I gotta remember did you say Casey Anthony?
Mm-hmm. You don't remember the Casey Anthony case? It may be better if you don't.
Oh, maybe I shouldn't look it up.
Yeah,
there was someone else who was accused of a crime that had kind of I forget who it was. It might have been in the 90s or maybe even the 80s. She was accused of a crime, and she had sort of the media convinced that she didn't do it. And I was watching like a mental health person do like a presentation about some of the examples of duping delight, they call it.
What is that?
Like where it's the idea that when you can manage to get somebody to believe a lie, that there will be visible indications of your satisfaction.
Interesting.
So in the midst of an interview, she's like talking, I think this was involving her children dying or something
that's like almost used as a lie detection technique. Like once the lie has landed, they can...
Well, I mean, the whole idea of like lie detection anyway is complete bullshit. I mean, there's nothing, there's no consistent thing you can do. I mean, there's indicators, but you can see, and it's much easier to detect the duping delight, as they call it, when you already know that this person later on was found to be guilty of the thing.
Yeah, so, gotcha.
I think everybody fell for it in the moment. And I think that in like a normal interaction with somebody, it's really hard to tell. Maybe if you look over a video a bunch of times, but you can fail a polygraph just from being nervous about the fact that they might think you're lying when you're not.
Yeah. I mean, there is a reason why they're not admissible in court. Like it is like it is a pretty solid science to a degree, but it is definitely not 100%. And it can be failed for the wrong reasons. It can also be passed for the wrong reasons.
But you can see like in the footage, and I feel like I kind of feel like I need to go find out who this was now. But you can see in the footage, they're talking to somebody on the news, and they are sort of giving them the sob story about how sad they are that this thing happened. And I believe it was about the death of the person's children, honestly. And there's a brief moment where you see the corner of her mouth turn up.
Interesting, yeah.
It's like she kind of looks down, and you can see that she's visibly satisfied at how she's been able to sort of dupe these people into believing like what she's saying. And it's interesting to me because, I mean, it's there's a lot of times during the day when I can tell someone's lying to me, or I actually just have evidence to the contrary that I don't mention.
Yeah.
But watching this film made me wonder about the times where I have absolutely no idea.
Yeah.
I don't suspect anything.
And I do think that is another cool, I don't know if I want to like say theme or whatever from this, but like another thing this movie points out is just that like what we picture as the like normal, the people that are just, like the normal families out there. It's like they may have like you're saying, like not just like who's lying to me and I don't know, but it's like, yeah, what kind of crazy shit is going on? What kind of crazy secrets do people have? Like, yeah, it's just interesting that it's like to think about like, yeah, you would picture in this movie the couple that, Nick and what is their name? Amy. The couple Nick and Amy, like at least, they were kind of the picture perfect couple. You definitely do not expect this storyline to come from that.
Yeah, and I mean, you can see like this sort of example of, the people that are like faking it forever just for the sake of, I don't know, the kids, the cameras, the job, the career, the public, whatever. I mean, there's times where you figure out like how bad situations are like after the fact. Wasn't
Hmm.
wasn't Whitney Houston in like a really abusive marriage?
Bobby Brown, right? I think was well,
I believe so.
allegedly. That's what they like. I
Oh
just
yeah,
I
I
just
mean, who
said
knows?
that
Maybe.
exactly. I just said that with such conviction. I have absolutely no idea what went on there. So, but I know that is the narrative that the media told me. So that is what I will parrot back. Is yeah, Bobby Brown beat her and made her smoke crack. That's what I know.
I mean, we know that's what we were told.
But
And sorry.
I do have a question for you. So you and your girlfriend been together for a decent amount of time. What's her blood type? What's her blood type?
I have absolutely no idea.
You're supposed to know her blood type, man. That's it.
I
Can't
know I'm
be that
supposed
serious.
to.
You're probably have something to do
I
with her disappearance because you don't know her blood type.
I feel
I think
like
the logic follows.
I feel like if I did know her blood type, that would be a problem.
I think if you said her blood type was delicious, that would be the biggest problem.
Oh yeah, that's true. But I don't even know my blood type. I have a little card that tells me what it is because I gave blood one time, but I have no idea where the hell it is.
Well, and I think that I mean I'm just throwing that out because I thought that was a funny part of the movie that I also think that was another thing the writers did well where they get Nick, in that interrogation moment with that question where he has to admit that he doesn't know his wife's blood type and that makes him feel like he, isn't the best husband. As a viewer for a split second, I feel like, oh shit, yeah. Why does this dude not know that? Like, yeah, is he kind of checked out? And like that adds to my column of things like as to why he may not have done it. And then I love 30 seconds later, you hear the two police officers talking. She's like, should I know my wife's blood type? She's like, no. So it's like, I love those little moments. And it's like, yeah, that will be used as ammunition to create a certain image or a certain perception even though the reality of that means absolutely nothing. And I think that is done so often where there's like you can take little questions, little pieces of information out of context to make it seem like ammunition for some sort of case when in reality that it actually means absolutely nothing.
Yeah, it's like these things that we choose to apply as methods of like assessing someone's character.
Yep.
And some of them don't necessarily matter that much, or we think they do but they don't, or someone tells us they do and we somehow just believe them.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff that I kind of, because regardless of the things, the sort of whatever abusive behaviors and whatnot that Amy kind of makes up in the journal, there is some stuff that I think Nick is kind of at fault for.
Oh, of course.
So
yeah.
I wonder from your perspective, or at least like when you see Nick, like is he like a bad guy or is he just kind of aloof in a fashion that's not so good?
I want to say neither. I don't think he is a bad guy. I don't think he is a good guy. I think he is just the guy in this. I think that like you were talking about the earlier touching on the questions of like we always want to know, especially like we want the simple answer of who's the good guy, who's the bad guy. And I think that that's what this really does is show you that the answer is not that clear. Mm-hmm. That it is just like he is doing what most people do in a relationship. And just being himself. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, a lot of people get comfortable. A lot of people get complacent. I don't think that makes you a bad person. I don't think that it is the best thing for the relationship. I think that when you realize that happens, that it probably should be work. But I will not say that makes him a bad person or anything. Like, and because like, on the other side, I think we see that like Amy's not perfect in the relationship either.
Right. Yeah. I mean, of course, like it's the thing that's interesting to me about this movie is how much of their relationship is pretty common. That you've got two people that meet each other who are pretending to be other people so the other person will like them.
Yes.
And then later on when they kind of start to be themselves, then it's like, well, you changed. Well, no, I didn't really. I was always like this. Yep. It's like, oh, you changed. Well, I mean, not really. I was just pretending to be someone so you would like me, and now we're here. And It's interesting because I've caught on to this now because I've seen it happen a few times. And it's actually a red flag for me. When I hear someone talk about a past relationship and take no responsibility for any part of it, and not only so, but seem to also make out their past partner as being like the worst ever. It's kind of a red flag for me.
Yeah.
So when I hear her talking about crazy stalkers and stuff like that, you know, and then
Desi,
you realize later on, yeah, and Desi ends up actually being kind of, yeah. He was the only one that seemed like legitimately to be a little out there. But the other couple exes that sort of like she made accusations and like essentially slandered them and assassinated their character and things like that. That I've actually been in relationships with people like that, where they try to make it seem like every part of the past failure was completely the other party and not them.
Yes.
But the other thing is really like you can see it's the difference between this and what typically happens is the reaction over people starting to be themselves later and not pretending to be someone else and becoming comfortable and putting less effort in. It's
Okay. Yeah.
Most people don't, you know, try to frame their partner for murder and then kill themselves to make it look like they were killed by their partner. And you know, did it weird you out when you saw the potential suicide dates on her calendar?
No, not really, because I was just trying to picture what her plan was and try to think of like, you know, what is her end game? Like kill herself. I guess she did end up explaining it at that certain point where she was gonna like, you know, take pills, like her body was gonna wash up, and then of course Nick was gonna be, you know, the suspect or da 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 da. I don't know. I was able to detach from this movie because of my interest in where it was going enough that none of it actually weirded me out, even though it was so weird what was going on. I was more just intrigued to see where it was going next. That it was like, it's kind of funny. After you asked me that, I was like, I probably should have been weirded out, but wasn't, because I was more just, trying to piece together where is this going to go.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was talking about earlier with like the plot, like the writing so fucking good that like if the movie can distract someone in the audience from even like recognizing how fucking crazy everything is just because they want to see the story unfold, I think that's a testament to good writing.
Yeah.
There was a bullet point I put in here that I actually missed when you were talking about opinions being kind of skewed. I noted specifically the quote expert who hadn't met I believe this was Nick. They were giving like a psychological profile.
I think I remember this. Yeah.
And I was like, I recognize now that whenever someone tries to like, if I hear somebody ask a mental health professional a question and that person starts with, I haven't been able to examine or do a diagnostic interview with this person, but then I just immediately am going to stop listening.
Exactly.
Because they're saying like, I have no reason to say anything I'm about to say, but I'm going to say it anyway.
Well, devil's advocate, it is someone like everyone is trying to judge someone based on some limited amount of what they've seen of them. So it's like, you're going to have either a bunch of uneducated people watching short clips of someone trying to figure out what their body language means, or possibly someone who is educated in that field watching the same clip saying, this is my opinion of what their body, like, I do think you're right that it still should be taken with a huge grain of salt, but it's like, I could see that it's maybe worth, something that someone's saying like, okay, yeah, I haven't sat down with them, but the way that they're, handling this, even what you just said about like that one, catching the dupe, what was the name of that?
Duping delight.
The duping delight. Yeah, it's like hearing like a behavioral expert point that out, where it's like, like, again, I haven't sat down with this person, but watching a clip of them, here's a little behavioral thing that I picked up that may lean to this or something. Like I do mostly agree with you though, that it is like, yeah, if someone hasn't actually sat down and talked to them, then yeah, like what really do you know about their behavior more than anyone else?
The problem isn't the person themselves. It's not the quote expert that's giving the opinion. For me, it's more the way that the media member attempts to frame that person. They'll, like, here we have expert criminal psychologist, such and such, what's the fuck, PhD.
Yeah.
What is your opinion on this? And they'll be like, well, I haven't examined this person personally, but based on my understanding of these types of individuals, I would say that there are this and a that and the blah, blah, and maybe a little bit of that. But once again, as I said, I haven't had the opportunity to sit down and interview this person.
Yeah.
Well, you got the facts here on this network.
I think
it's the fact that they're framed as something else, even though the person that's making the statement tells you, like, take this with a grain of salt. Like, I'm good at this, but I've never actually met this person.
Exactly.
It's not the person themselves. It's just the way that people want to frame it. Actually, I despise the term expert. I feel like if someone proclaims themselves an expert, it probably means they don't know what they're talking about. You notice that most of the people who tend to be really knowledgeable on the subject will be called experts by others, but you rarely ever hear them say, I am an expert.
Of course.
It's not what the Dunning-Kruger effect thing, right? That you have to know enough about something to know how much you don't know about it.
Sure. Yeah.
But there's another mind-blowing thing in addition to, like, biases that I might.
Oh no, real quick before we get off that topic though, I do want to point out, because that gets to one of my biggest things. I think honestly, I think the biggest problem is the media literacy, the media literacy that a lot of us lack. I do think that, like you just pointed out in that segment, the person, even the anchor will even say, like, hey, what's your opinion on this? That is an opinion piece. Most people will say they're watching the news. There are a lot of people that just do not understand the difference between an opinion piece and the news. And I think that is like a big problem in especially America today, though. And like, I love that we kind of touched on it there, though, with, like, there is, like, just keep in mind that, like, there is a difference between the news and the people talking about their opinion of the news.
Right. Yeah. And it's actually amazing how many articles you will click on in, like, banners or on, like, MSN that link to another page, or Facebook that say opinion, like, at the top of the article.
Yep.
And that people oftentimes will cite something as a source and it says opinion at the top.
Yep.
And yeah, I agree with you, though. I mean, like, it's something that I think a lot of us should be more aware of. But in addition to having my mind blown about things like that, like, where I'm getting my news from and what I regard as being reality and what I regard as being fact, there's a scene where the detective, I cannot remember her name.
I was just scrolling for it. I don't have it here. What is her name?
No, that's, oh my God.
I've got
I'm going to lose my mind. Was it Abbott? No.
Dickens. Oh, I'm sorry. That's the actress. Bonnie? Detective Rhonda Bonnie?
Oh, yeah, it was Boney. Yeah,
Boney.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was Boney, yeah. Detective Boney just, like, eviscerates Occam's razor at some point. When the person's like, he says something about it's the simplest answer. She's like, well, like, it's something like you'd be amazed how often the simplest answer isn't the best one. Or she says something like that.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, fuck. Because, like, people regard Occam's razor as being, like, an axiom.
Exactly.
Like, that it's like a basal, like, fact that we can build off of as something to be understood as, like, a basis for a conversation.
Rather than it just being, like, a statement about statistics.
Right.
Like, yeah, it is not at all, like, yeah.
Like, Murphy's Law is a philosophical joke.
Yeah.
Because it's not what can go wrong will go wrong. It doesn't make sense because it's inductive of everything, meaning that every amount of time that possibly could ever pass would have to pass. So something would have to happen infinitely, and nothing happens infinitely in order for what could go wrong to go wrong.
Gotcha. Yeah, I get what you're saying. Yes.
But people act like Murphy's Law is actually, like, something other than a joke.
Yeah.
And it's like you can't. It's not possible for everything that could too, because you have to have things don't exist that way. Reality's not like that. And it's and it makes me feel like an idiot is using, like, Occam's razor as, like, this kind of, like, smackdown type argument.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, he just said the simplest answer is the best one. You shut the fuck up. Mic drop. Like, I just felt like an idiot. I was like, oh my God, the detective's right.
Yeah, well, I mean, it is definitely statistically true that more often than not it will, but like, yeah, like you're saying though, that does not mean that it's like there's any sort of deductive reasoning that you can make from that. It's like, because there are always statistical outliers, and you do not know when you are looking at one case, one situation, if that case is a statistical outlier. You know that it is most likely that it is not, but you cannot use any sort of like actual logic to rule it out. Yeah, but people will do that all the time, and yeah, it is very frustrating.
It is strange to me, like, how many things that this movie made me think about that might have been beside the point.
Yeah,
but
I think that's
cool
the
that
best. I think that's the best thing film does, though. I love it when it's like tangentially related subtext things like that, not just the main, part of the film that's smacking me in the face. Yeah. See, there's one thing I loved about this movie that I want to know if you got the same feeling, because I know that you've seen some of this same show. The dialogue in this movie, especially between like Amy and Nick, and then also between Nick and Margot, did you get any sort of like Gossip Girls feeling where they're just so quick and witty, and like the talking back and forth is just almost like that? It's like everyone's just too fast than real life. Like everyone's just like almost, the dialogue's just a little too smart.
Yeah. And another show that I think was legendary for that kind of dialogue?
What's that?
West Wing.
Oh, yes. Yep.
They would have just nonstop banter walking through the fucking White House and shit. Great camera work, by the way.
I loved those.
But yeah.
Yeah, the hallway scenes with all the turns.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are great.
They were great. But yeah, I think I see. Yeah, it's not just the cleverness or how quick they are, but it's that the characters have to have this weird kind of ironic detachment from things.
Yeah. Yep.
In order to be that way. And yeah, I mean, I now that I think about it, I did get some of that from it, like some of the stuff that, because it's funny because we were talking about the show You. The actor Penn Bagley played Dan on that series.
Yep.
And Dan always had these really quick like quips all the time. And like, what's his name? Chuck Bass would always say this like scathing like shit, but was always quick to like demean people and stuff like that in a really kind of witty sort of way. But once again, he had that sort of ironic detachment from the situation, like somehow like it didn't matter. But yeah, no, I got that vibe. And even like, who was it that played, Carrie Coon, I think was the
played Margot.
I mean, it's also something about her kind of personality and her like presence on camera and like the way that she plays the character. I mean, I think that it helps a lot with that sort of witty kind of banter that they have.
There's some wood for you,
it is interesting. Yeah. Because that's like your introduction to that character too, and you're like, oh, wait, who is this? And then,
like, I like Margot.
Sister. Like, how come my sisters aren't this fucking crazy? Mm-hmm. Like in a good way. No offense, sisters, you're great, just a different kind of great. But I think that some of the things that are employed in the film, like the gummy bear trial training scene.
Yes, yeah.
It's like every time you screw up, we're gonna throw a gummy bear at you. It's like, what a weird, like, sort of inert thing to throw at someone. But hey, I mean, it works. It's like, it stings, but it's not exactly violent.
Yeah, and then led to the perfect callback line of like, "Did you eat? I had some gummy bears." Like, yeah, there's just brilliant writing, like all around, like in a serious, dark toned movie, lovely little like lighthearted lines like that. Yeah, I loved it, man.
Yeah. And it's interesting because you see another sort of side of people that even if you think somebody might have killed their wife, you still might objectify them sexually.
I think even more.
And there's I've had conversations with lots of like straight women that have told me that Ted Bundy was actually really handsome and charming.
I think the prolificness of his career speaks to that. I don't think that he would have been so successful if he was not.
That's true. And I mean, the part where they're having that sort of vigil and someone's like sitting there talking about Nick, like, he's so hot. And the other person's like, he is fucking creepy. It's interesting.
You
Like the
definitely see that
disparities,
a
like,
lot
right there.
though in the media. Like, I mean, do you remember that one dude's mugshot that went like viral for him being just so hot? Like, and it was just some like,
Yeah.
I'm like, not, I don't want to call the dude unattractive. I mean, he was definitely an attractive guy, but like normal attractive, you know, like the type of attractive that I would see out places and would not stand out to me as like, oh shit, that guy's a model, you know. So it was like, yeah, it's something about, I mean, there is I watch a lot of like true crime shows and shit on YouTube and stuff. I don't know why I'm into that
Shit.
stuff, but there is something that happens a lot with like dudes on death row. There are a lot of women that write them love letters. Like they are like, it happens a lot. And I don't necessarily know what it is that's attractive about that, but I do think they kind of showed that in this movie, that like you're saying, when someone's like accused of murder, there is a specific, like a big part of the population that for some reason finds that attractive, or maybe I shouldn't say finds that attractive, still finds them attractive despite of that. I guess. I shouldn't say that it's necessarily that in itself, but
I mean, it might be. That's I mean, that's the most disturbing part of it, is that it might be.
I mean, there is definitely a subconscious attraction to danger that a lot of us have, right? Like, I mean, it really could just kind of be, you know, like some, like, you know, nature, you know, kind of pulling on that instinct in some way, that it's like, oh, that person's dangerous. Like, or on the other side of that, like that person is not necessarily like dangerous to others, you know, like that person could be a good protector because like they are like, yeah, they're, I don't know. This is the psychology portion of the podcast, I guess.
It's the dichotomy of violence. Like that person might be dangerous, but you'd prefer to have them on your side in a bar fight or something like that.
Exactly. Yeah.
What can we talk about Desi?
First of all, amazing casting choice, right? Like, could you have pictured anyone else playing Desi at this point, or is that just like 100% MPH?
I'm thinking Michael Fassbender would have done it well.
Well, okay, but that's like saying Gary Oldman would have done it. Like, they do every role well because they're that like they have that range. Like
Alec Baldwin.
I think Daniel Day-Lewis may have pulled it off. I think he could pull it off. Like,
yeah, that's true. But I think that certain actors wouldn't have been able to do it because Neil Patrick Harris is just attractive enough.
Yeah.
Like Henry Cavill would have been a miserable failure. He's just too, like, for lack of a better term, hunky, I guess.
Yeah. Well, you can't be that physically imposing and be Desi too, I think. You have to be somewhat kind of like, I don't want to use the term weaselly, but that like is kind of where my mind goes. But
I mean, the thing that I think was a good idea, I think, and I don't know if Neil Patrick Harris was just going to a tanning bed a lot because he liked it, or if they made him get a tan for the role. Did you notice how like bronzy he looked for a white guy? I
am almost positive it's for the role. It fit way too well with him, like the role he was playing, everything that he said. That it had to have been for the role.
There is one thing that I tend to mention a lot in movies is cars. And Desi has, I'm pretty sure, in the background of his garage, he has a Porsche 550 Spider, which is a very sought after Porsche. I think they go for like multiples of millions now.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
I think that the 550 Spider, I think that's the car that James Dean crashed when he died.
Oh, really? That's interesting.
Yeah, actually, let me look at what the 550 Spiders, because that's the thing that for me, they made Desi so, because okay, here's the thing. I think that the most like dangerous, like narcissistic psychopath in the film was Desi. And I think that that Amy was a very, very, very close second. And even then, like, I don't know that I would say that there's any pathology to Amy. It's almost like she seems like a semi-normal person that just lost her shit.
I have to push you on that. How do you define dangerous? Or I guess like where's your marker for that?
Well, it's interesting because I kind of thought of okay, this is maybe a shitty comparison. Last 550 Spider sold in 2012 for 3.6 million. By the way, just found that.
That's really cool
so-
because that's like a subtle, really good background piece that like you only notice that if you actually are into car. Like I noticed that it was a
Yeah.
nice car, but did not notice the level of like that would mean for that character or whatever. Like yeah, that's cool.
Like,
That's cool.
The only thing that would have been more than that would have been like an old Ferrari California or something like that. And even then, there's no way the production company would even be able to get a hold of one of those. It would cost them too much to get it to the location. But so for lack of better terms, I'm going to use these. I kind of feel like Desi. Well, no, not now that I think about it. I'm going to say Desi's a close second to Amy because I would say that Desi is a predator. But Amy's an apex predator.
I feel like Desi was dormant. I feel like Desi was at a point where I don't know if he was necessarily actually an active danger to anyone, even though I do feel I think you're right that he was like definitely a predator and definitely dangerous, but
Well, he was, and I mean, kind of more like you could see some narcissism, you could see some controlling nature in him, you could see even a weird degree of codependence, like in an unhealthy way, where he wanted to know where she was all the time. He almost wanted her to be like this little doll that would wait around.
Yep. Yeah.
He had this very strange, like, fantasy that existed in a vacuum about this woman that he'd had for 20 years. And
like wanted her to be this person she was 20 years ago without changing to that. It was it was interesting.
Yeah, she was actually maybe more herself than she'd ever been. And then he like offered her like makeup and clothing and hair products or whatever. He's like, you'll start feeling like yourself when you look like yourself.
Yep.
And I'm just kind of like, wow, dude, like you're almost self-indulgent in every way possible. Okay, maybe it's more, maybe what I really mean is that perhaps Amy is a more dangerous, and what I mean by that is physical harm or death.
Okay, yeah, that's where my mind was going. Yeah.
But Desi is a hell of a lot less likable.
Okay. Yes.
Which is fucked up because Amy does much worse shit.
And that I would then argue, I think that being dangerous and likable is even more dangerous. That is because that's how someone that's like the drinks that have a lot of alcohol in them but don't taste like alcohol. They get past the first defenses because they taste too good. It's like, yeah, if you've got someone that is that dangerous but comes off as like super warm or super friendly, like that to me is almost like that's the Trojan horse.
Yeah. That's a good analogy too. It's like you ever see somebody make a Long Island iced tea? They basically take 5 bottles and turn them over.
Yeah, and a little splash of Coke on top.
Like, it's like this tastes like lemonade. Like what's going on? So yeah, and it is interesting because have you seen the previews on Netflix for I Care a Lot?
Yes. Yeah, that is one that I want to watch that. Yeah.
Well, she's in that. Rosamund Pike is in that movie.
Yep. I thought she was great in this too, by the way, but I don't remember seeing her in really anything else. Her face was familiar, but like I couldn't place it.
Let me see what else she's in, because I didn't really. So I Care a Lot's the most recent credit. She's been in several series.
I feel like I know her from a series. Was she in? Did she do like the big? No, was she not in the Big C? What was she in?
Let's see. Oh, these are weird.
She was in the 2005 Doom. Holy shit.
She was in what? Oh, the one with Dwayne Johnson in
it? She was in that Doom. That's fun. Yes, she was. Dude. I remember her. Holy shit.
Possibly my favorite Dwayne Johnson line ever is from Doom, where he says, "I'm not supposed to die." That's so fucking great. So wait, what else was she in? Did you say?
I thought she was in. Oh, she was in Jack Reacher. Okay, no, I thought she was in a series that I'd seen some parts of, but it was not her.
Jack Reacher was a fun little series of films. They did I think they only did 2 of them, but I liked them a lot. The Man with the Iron Heart, Hostiles, Beirut. A Private War. That sounds very familiar. The Informer. That also. Who was in that? I think I've seen that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's mainly Gone Girl that I know her from. I don't know why her face looks so familiar.
Yeah, she's and I think she just might have one of those faces. She's got like the blonde European actress look.
Because I think I am mixing her up with like another specific actress that like as soon as I found that person's IMDb page, I was like, oh no, it's this lady. But
and it would be easy to do like Gwyneth Paltrow, Charlize Theron. They all kind of have that look, you know. Johnny English Reborn. I actually remember her in that film, and she was fucking great in it.
I don't think I've ever seen that.
Oh, dude, I freaking love that.
Oh
guy.
shit, she was in Pride and Prejudice. I forgot about that. That was a good movie. I actually liked that adaptation.
I never saw it.
It's not bad.
But yeah,
I like
Rowan
that book
Atkinson,
too.
the dude that plays Johnny English, is fucking hilarious. If you haven't seen either of those films, I recommend them. They're really stupid, but they're great.
Are you ever scared that you may actually be a teenage girl? After how much I loved Pride and Prejudice, I was like, I started researching what transgender was because like it really resonated with me. I was like, dude, Jane Austen is just my spirit animal.
I mean, dude, like I love Taylor Swift, and I have uttered the phrase "butt first coffee." I thought Gossip Girl was great. I've seen the entire series twice, and
if
I'm sure there's other things.
If
like,
I got a wall cling,
I do wonder sometimes.
If I got a wall cling that instead of live, laugh, love, it said live, laugh, loot, would you think that'd be funny?
Yeah. I mean, like, saying it isn't funny, but if I happen to just notice it in the background while someone was streaming, it would be fucking hilarious. Like, I'd be like, oh shit, like, and then I'd show all my friends, dudes, have you seen this? Like, yeah. It's like talking about it, it's a funny idea, but like if I actually witnessed it, I would be amused.
Yeah, it is better as a like background Easter egg thing. Like whenever I like, hey, would it be funny if I had Lawyer Cat on my monitor? You're like, yeah, I guess. But like if you caught it there, it'd be like, oh shit, look what that is. Like, yeah, I think it's funnier when you see it yourself. Yeah.
I'm imagining the situation, and it's a good idea.
Cool. Okay.
And do you remember like that weird? Okay, there's some weird shit here. I don't know if this is an appropriate place for a trigger warning, but beware, listeners. I'm about to talk about some gross shit. There are a few things in the film that I will be very surprised if you were truly so intrigued by the film that they didn't weird you out. The scene where she mutilates her own genitals with a wine bottle.
Okay, yeah, that one was rough. Yeah.
And because here's the thing, that shit was hard to watch, but the fucking dedication of trying to sell this narrative that actually making it look legitimately as if she'd been assaulted.
Yeah.
You have to respect the dedication, the tenacity. Like, it's like have you ever seen like the movies where, you know, the guy, he's a double agent and he's about to let the other people go and they're like, quick, shoot me, so it looks legit.
Yeah. Yep.
Like it's that kind of thing where it's like it's a similar principle that you're so dedicated to selling it that you're willing to harm yourself in order to do it.
The other one part of this movie that made me feel very uneasy was the exact same thing when she sat there and actually drew blood into a Tupperware dish to like and just was reading a book while like that I was like I don't like blood doesn't really bother me in a movie, but for some reason slow giving of blood, like even the when we watched The Midnight Sky and there was the like what the treatment at the beginning, that was probably dialysis I guess or whatever, like stuff like that for some reason gets a little bit makes me feel uneasy. And that scene when she was just sitting there reading a book while like pumping blood into a Tupperware container, I was like, oh yeah, this is gross.
Yeah, and the way they did the stage blood for that scene was very good. Like they made it very gross. Like it's one of those things like where like I know that actual blood doesn't look like that, but for the cameras, they did a really good job making it like as viscous and like syrupy as it was. It really makes you like as she's smearing it everywhere, you're like, oh my God, blood. It's weird when someone can make something look grosser than the real thing.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. And then immediately after the weird wine bottle thing, that like whole sex scene with Desi where she's trying to get the genetic material to make it look legit, that shit is so fucking dark. And it's funny because in my notes I just typed out this weird sex scene is super dark, and then the next bullet point says ... and now Desi is dead.
Yep.
And like the amount of blood that came out of his like neck, and she doesn't even bother to wash it off before she like goes back to like her husband. And I love the part where she runs up and tries to sell it, and he whispers, "You fucking bitch," in her ear,
Yep.
as she like sort of fake collapses in his arms. But here's the thing though, is that Nick liked the attention. He really did.
Somewhat, yeah, of course. Yeah.
And
I mean, he was that homecoming guy personality. Like, even that's what kind of got him in trouble, was like being that kind of personable too much. So like, yeah, I think of course he liked that attention. It was being popular again. Yeah.
What was the line? Oh yeah, the one cop that was working with Detective Boney on the case, he said, quote, "He's being a good guy, so everyone can see him being a good guy."
Yep.
And that's kind of like what, damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Yeah, because that is exactly what a lot of people would say. I mean, like, I guarantee we've both been guilty of that. You see someone who is not acting how you think they should be acting because of some certain situation, and like, oh, something's not right because they're not acting how I think they should. And it's like, what? How do you know? How do you know how that person is going to react to this situation that you've never even been in yourself? Like,
yeah, there's this whole idea of that there's like empathy, and then there's sympathy, and then there's recognizing when you're unable to do some, like you're unable to understand because you're unable to do, or like you have not experienced before, so you cannot understand. Like for me, whenever someone like like if someone dies, and or I don't know the dead person, but I know someone close to them, I usually tell them, I don't know what to say to you, and I don't understand what you're going through.
Yeah. Yep.
And usually they're like, "Oh, thanks."
That means a lot more than the generic,
nice.
"I'm sorry for your loss," that everyone else has said.
Yeah. Or like, you must feel, it must be like, it's like, no, it's none of those things.
Or I know how you feel because I've lost X and Y. You know, like, I understand you are trying to empathize, but it's like, in reality, you don't know how they feel. You are trying to guess how they feel, but you are starting that sentence with like, "Oh, I know what you're going through." It's like, yeah, maybe I don't think you do. I don't think we ever do.
And it depends on the thing. Like, you know, for instance, we talked before, like texting or whatever, about that Big Mouth series. Yeah. That it really is super relatable. Now, unless you're talking about going through puberty, then pretty much anybody that's been through it does know exactly how you feel, more or less. Maybe it was a different person that broke up with them. Maybe a different person made fun of them in the locker room or whatever, but it's about the same. Yeah. But not for everything. I mean, there's some stuff that's like, you really can't even attempt to guess at. You know, like it is weird because I was trying to figure out what to call this type of ending. Like, is it a broken resolution? Is it a dissonant resolution?
I liked it, honestly. I mean, liked the Well, so hold on. We talked earlier about the starting off as like people that you're pretending to be, and then kind of like, you know, like sliding to be the person you really are during a relationship as you get more and more comfortable, whatever. What do you feel about the idea of like going through a crisis moment like that, realizing you do, I mean, now, again, not specifically this one, because I don't think anyone's actually gone through this, but going through a moment where the relationship almost comes to an end, realizing that you two want to keep it together, and it involves changing to become something better than you were, the thing that you were pretending to be. Where it was like, you know what I'm getting at? Where at the end of the movie, like, she saw the Nick that she wanted him to be in that interview. And he even says, like, you know, I was just telling you what you want to hear. But that does show that he is capable of being what she wants, whether or not it takes, you know, acting and then a certain amount of like, quote unquote, faking it until you become that. But it's like, is there anything to be said about almost like rather than pretending to be someone else. It's like, no, hold on. I will become this better version of myself that I know I'm capable of acting like. Let me actually just become that for you.
Yeah. Mm, that's all very complicated. So
Yeah.
I mean, I get that that they kind of go through a crisis, maybe recognize like this thing and that thing's different or wrong about me. Like there's one line where she says that the best thing he ever was is when he wanted desperately for that girl to like him or something of that nature.
Yep.
And it was almost like this idea that uh, your partner can actually help you be better.
Yeah.
And I think the best partners are going to, and it's the same with friends too. Like even when we did the episode in our old format about friend, like one of the reasons why I think one of the reasons why I like you so much is that you'll just fucking straight up tell me if you think something that I said was stupid or wrong, or you'll disagree in a way that might be more of a devil's advocate thing, but it's beneficial for both of us because of the conversation that happens after.
Yes. Yeah.
That like there's no bullshit between us. Like like that if we see something that's like maybe a concern or something like a little fucked up, we'll like tell the other person.
Yep.
And I think that like in the best relationships, you're going to have someone that will observe stuff and tell you what's fucked up in like a good kind of well-natured fashion.
Yeah. I think we touched about that in the friend episode of like where the relationship itself can actually end up with two people that are better as a couple than they were separately. Like the sum of the total of goodness is actually like the two parts are greater than the sum of the parts. Yeah.
And it is very strange because it's not so much the idea of being, and I hope I'm not missing the point. I think I understood what you were trying to say, but it's not so much the idea of being like going through a thing and then coming out better as people. I think that there was something fucked up about both of them, something deeply wrong about each of them.
Yeah.
And now they're at the point where they can be genuine.
Yeah. They were able to confront that elephant in the room that they were not for way too long. Yeah.
Yeah. And I feel like you touched on that when you were speaking just now, but like, it's the idea that there's, I've mentioned the guy before and I was actually sitting here trying to find him, but there's a dude that it wasn't a TED talk, but he was doing some kind of presentation about psychopaths. He's, a neuroscientist, and he was talking about, what they did is the control group was researchers. And they did like fMRIs of their brains. I think they were fMRIs. Okay. It was MRI. I don't know if they were functional or not, but the researchers were the control group, and they took these people who were diagnosed psychopaths, and they noticed like certain areas of the brain when given certain stimulus were essentially dead. There's nothing going on in them at all.
Interesting.
And it was one region of the brain, I forget where it was, that would tended to be quite inactive in these people when given a specific stimulus. And I don't know what the stimulus was, but one of the researchers asked this guy, who was also one of the researchers, to organize these fMRIs for him. And he looked at one of the scans and he was like, holy shit, this subject has like the least activity in this region of any of these people. Who is this? Oh, that's me.
Yeah.
Like,
That's
I
great.
talked about him before. I will someday I'll find the guy. He's spoken a few times, but he is a psychopath. And he talked to some of his colleagues, and it seems to me that his colleague did that on purpose.
Interesting.
So he would see his brain and be like, what the fuck is wrong with my brain?
That's interesting.
But then he started talking to his colleagues, and he was like, did you guys think I was a psychopath? They were like, I mean, we were pretty sure, but you're fun and you tell good jokes.
Yeah.
Like, you're fun to drink with, so like we keep you around. It's like, okay. And what happened was he talks about his wife, and he started just trying to do things differently. So he cut a piece of cake, and typically what he would do is serve himself because, well, he's a psychopath. And so what he did is he cut a piece of cake and he gave it to his wife first.
Did you poison this?
And like, but he told his wife, like, later on, he said, like, he's like, you know that I still don't really care about you as much as I care about myself. Like, this hasn't changed. Like, and she said, yeah, I know, but you're trying.
Yeah.
Like, the fact that you care enough to fake it is like a big deal. She's like, and that's all that kind of matters to me.
Well, and what's interesting though is like he has to care enough to try. You know what I mean? Like just the fact that he is willing to put in that effort and consciously say like, hold on, let me do this differently because it like she would care about that. It's like that just shows that he does care at some amount to even just give it the effort. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, dude, I'm gonna find this guy's name that I was talking about because it's someone that like you can't just like mention the dude.
Mm-hmm.
Here he is. This is the guy. I found him. I fucking found him.
Who is it?
Hold on. Let me see. I've got every fucking thing but his fucking name. Oh, please tell me that's not really it.
Was it James Fallon? Yes, James Fallon. He was
James. I saw that and I was like, please tell me his name's not really James Fallon.
Yeah, that's the guy. He described to the BBC the moment he accidentally discovered he was a psychopath after just studying his own brain scans. Interesting. He was 58 like when he found. Imagine living 60 years of your life too before you like diagnosed a like actual pretty big mental change. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, that's yeah, especially being like a mental health person. But I mean, he is, at least in some of their findings, he may actually be biologically predisposed to be that. So there might not be much that he could really do. So here's the thing, though.
What's up?
I do not know if the Urban Dictionary definition of Gone Girl is based on the film or not. But
is it a noun?
It's very relevant to the point you just made.
It is a noun, right? Like a Gone Girl is a thing, or is it a?
Oh no, Gone Girl is appears to be almost like a syndrome or a state.
Interesting. Okay. What hit me with it. What's the definition? Or
like a verb, like if you Gone Girl somebody or you are Gone Girl for them.
Okay.
Urban Dictionary defines it as to be irrefutably in love with another human being so much that you'd be willing to do anything for them. You are literally blinded and taken away by their presence.
That makes a lot more sense than being gone. That makes a lot more. Okay, so another layer of brilliant writing. I mean, I like puns, but that title, I think, actually like did not have the amount of respect until right now. That's a brilliant title because not only it's like on the first layer you think it's about her just being gone, and then after you like if you actually know the context of it, that's great. That is brilliant.
It's because it seems that her motivations for what she does are the fact that and none of this behavior is healthy, by the way, just saying.
Yeah, no, of course. Yeah.
It seems that she has such an unhealthy need for this relationship, for this guy to be in this relationship with her, to appear this way, to be this way, to treat her this way, and to have this perfect thing, if it's real or not, that she is willing to frame him for something and then kill herself because she feels that he's taken this away from her.
Yeah.
And then when the slightest bit of inkling, after everything goes completely to shit, the slightest bit of inkling she gets that there could still be something there, she runs straight back to the guy.
Yeah.
And then does whatever she has to do to patch everything up, to tell any number of lies in order to get this shit like back together. It is one of the, it's almost like this weird codependence, dude. Like this shit is fucking crazy. Like honestly, bro, I could talk for another half hour about this movie if you're down.
It's a good one. Okay. I mean, I do still have quite a bit in my notes here. Can I, do you have my stream pulled up? I have one like joking thing I want to ask you, but it takes, you have to have my stream pulled up. Okay.
I'm looking at the stream. I mean,
right.
Obviously it's delayed, but
okay. Yeah. It will be a little bit delayed, but okay. Tell me if this part right here reminds you of the same thing that it reminds me of. This scene right here. Is this not an area that you recognize?
Oh my God.
Is that not a group of scavs just scattering an interchange right here? The dude's even wearing a black and white tracksuit and everything. Like,
Well, the second, even, is that an escalator in the last frame?
Yes, yeah, the escalator they came down to, like, yeah.
When I saw the escalator and the lighting, even, I was like, "Yep, interchange."
Yep. Okay. I'm just as soon as I saw that, I was like, "Holy shit! Was this filmed in fucking Interchange?" But all right, I just want to make sure I'm not the only one that saw that. Okay.
Yeah, I didn't think about it at the time, but yes, I did notice it. But
Hey.
like this movie is like it's so fucking complicated, and there's nothing black and white about it. This is like the philosophy student's dream, this film, because you can argue about basically everything in this all fucking day if you want to.
Dude, so how did you? One of the things that we haven't even touched. Well, I guess we touched on the media in general, but what did you think about the Ellen character? That blonde media reactionary.
Supposed to be Ellen?
No. Well, I mean, her name was Ellen in this. Like,
Oh.
you know, like the character's name was Ellen, but that media reactionary character that I forget the actress's name, but I think she did it so well.
Oh yeah, I kind of read that it is like, I mean, it was once again another great cast. Yes, 100% agree with you on that. She did a great job in that role. I kind of view, okay, so it's weird because she's almost like a cross between. Okay, this is fucking weird. I think, was it Megan Flynn from Fox News?
Sounds about
And
right.
that Southern cook lady that used like racial slurs when she was in her 20s.
The one that used way too much butter. Yep, the butter lady. Yep.
Yeah, Megan. I think Flynn is her last name. Paula Dean, and Oprah.
I can see that. Yeah.
And maybe everybody from that. Is it called The View? Is that still the name of the show? The talk show that Whoopi Goldberg is on now?
I feel like they changed the name, but now I'm not sure. But yeah, either. But yeah, like what that whole like segment of media though that just does that, where it's just, you know, like let's show you a clip of something, and then I am going to, you know, get super upset about it and tell you what to think about it. Like, yeah, it irritates me.
That series is called The View, but
okay.
Yeah, it's because and I mean, obviously, I find it irritating too, but it's like there is some stuff that, okay, think about it this way. You and I both own firearms. We like to go shooting. We enjoy the sport. I think in the recent year and a half or so, you've nerded out a lot more on gear than I have, but we're still both interested in the mechanisms and the engineering of it all. I feel like there's certain people like Paul Harrell.
Yeah.
I feel like if we hear his opinion on something, we'd probably both be pretty quick to just say like, the Lord has spoken. Like,
yes.
Like Paul Harrell said this, so it clearly must be true. And of course, the way that he sort of frames things, like, and I feel like in almost every space or like every community, there's someone like that. You know, there's that whatever this person says kind of goes.
Yeah.
And we might later on examine what the person has to say, like the two of us, I would hope, or maybe not, but initially there's the knee jerk that this person must be right. And that's the reason why I said Oprah, is because if Oprah read something, if Oprah said it was good, if Oprah's tried this thing, it must be great.
But see, the thing is though, like, I agree with you, Paul Harrell, in the Paul Harrell situation, and I feel like that's different because people like that have a reputation of being level-headed, objective, and truthful when it comes to certain things. It is not going to, that is not the person that would on their YouTube channel have a like paid, you know, review of something and they're going to tell you to go buy it when they didn't actually like it. You know, like there is a certain brand that this person has made for themselves, for lack of a better term, that means they are trustworthy. I don't know enough about Oprah to speak one way or another, but it's like, unfortunately, there are a lot of these media figures that have somehow become that when I don't know how. They've never shown themselves to be the level-headed, trustworthy person, but somehow to a group of people, they are this like, oh, well, this person said it, so this must be true. And that to me is like, it's interesting how a lot of I've gotten to that. And I think that this character in that movie like shows a lot of what we see in real life of that, where somehow this voice has become like, oh, well, yeah, this person said it. So yeah, they're being honest about it. But it's like, well, why? Why do we trust that voice if they haven't established themselves to be trustworthy?
Yeah, I was trying to come up with an example that we could both relate to, and that kind of like limited the scope a lot. And now I recognize that that was probably a poor example. I feel like there's can't remember any names, but there's certain sports anchors or sports commentators that people just because they said it must be true. That I mean, a lot of them end up having like a good bit of credibility, but there's certain, for some reason, the people, some individuals, not so much anymore, but if something's in the New York Times or the Washington Post, that somehow that gives it some kind of weight, even though we've established now that there's not really any media outlets that are completely unbiased. I'm not sure that there ever have been, honestly.
But with that being said, though, there's a difference between, there are certain publications like ones you've mentioned there, that when big names like that, if they publish something that is incorrect, they retract it. There are people that lose their jobs over it. That is a big thing when a publication like that publishes something incorrect. People will point to it and say, oh, look, they published fake news. But then you can also point to the fallout afterwards of like, well, look, yes, it was a big deal when they did, versus the hundreds of websites you can just point to that are constantly publishing fake things that are never held accountable to it because they don't have that credit, that like, without that credibility, you're not held to that level of stringency, I guess. I don't know what the word I'm looking for is there.
And I guess the other point to mention, and that kind of goes back to the thing you were talking about earlier with opinion pieces, that you don't have the same standards for an opinion piece.
Yes.
And it depends whose opinion you allow and like what types of opinions, because those just aren't under the same scrutiny. And for someone to say, and this is nothing to say about the New York Times itself or Washington Post, I'm not singling them out. I think they're particularly bad, but because they're often thought of as gold standards by a lot of people, that when you cite an opinion piece in the New York Times, that doesn't have the same level, right?
Yes.
Of credibility. They're not going to say, as it turns out, some people disagree with this opinion, so we're going to retract this opinion piece. That who does that? No one does that.
Yes, exactly.
And a lot of it, I think, it just has to do with like recognizing like what the opinion's based on, and like what. Yep. So it's like if oh God, I don't think any of our audience is going to be alienated by this statement, but the only fucking person I can think of is Tucker Carlson.
Oh God. Okay.
So, if Tucker Carlson tells me not to do something or to do something, if Tucker Carlson says something about, I don't know, makes a statement about astrophysics, and then Neil deGrasse Tyson makes the same statement, Neil deGrasse Tyson's statement will have more weight. Yeah. Or if one of them 100%. Makes a statement and then Neil deGrasse Tyson makes a statement to the contrary, I will listen to Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Yes, 100%.
More likely.
Yep.
If Neil deGrasse Tyson tries to tell me which solvent to use for my gun barrel, and then a bearded man in camouflage on YouTube tells me to, I'm just going to listen to the bearded man in camouflage on YouTube because I just assume that he's just got the image of someone that knows about stuff.
Well, as a liberal that fires guns, I clean and lubricate using lavender essential oil. I think that's what I'm supposed to do.
I steep some like Earl Grey tea and I just pour it through the fucking barrel.
Yeah.
As a as a pretentious hipster that fires guns.
Yeah, and then I eat a nice bowl of quinoa.
Some of that quinoa in there. Yeah, fill it up with that. I only use specialty coffee on my. Okay, I can't go any further. But I mean, the point that I'm making here is that you have Tucker Carlson, who is not an astrophysicist, talking about astrophysics. You have Neil deGrasse Tyson, who is an physicist talking about it. Yeah. You have Neil deGrasse Tyson, who is an astrophysicist, and then you have someone that just kind of looks like they know what they're talking about with guns.
Yeah.
Based on a stereotype that I have, because he looks like a lot of the guys that I see at the range or the gun store.
Yep.
or hunters that I know.
Yeah.
So I just assume that he has some kind of credibility because he seems that way. And maybe to some people, Tucker Carlson seems like he has some credibility.
He does have a bow tie, and bow ties bring with them credibility.
Does he still wear that?
I don't know. It's a good look though. And that's why Bill Nye seems so credible. It's the fucking bow tie, dude. Like he's not a real scientist. He's just got a master's in engineering. He's not even a PhD. We're out here thinking
engineering doesn't. Yeah, that doesn't require physics or anything.
Not at all.
Is he mechanical or chemical engineer?
I actually don't know. I'm not sure. I just know it became a big thing that he was not like an actual like PhD, and that was like a gotcha moment. It was like, he still has a master's in engineering. Like, it's still like he plays a science guy on TV. He's not like actually claiming he's like doing science work. Like,
yeah, he has a couple of causes that he advocates for that he feels strongly about, that he uses his platform for. And I mean, who doesn't do that? Everybody
as
does
many
that.
media
Fucking
personalities
LeBron does
do.
that.
Exactly. Like
So, what can you do to discredit LeBron? By stating his opinion in public. Hey, it's just his opinion. It's okay.
True.
But yeah, it is. But back to that character that was Ellen. You said was the name of the, which is funny because I thought you meant that they were supposed to be like Ellen, the
I was trying to remember
show person.
I was trying to remember the actress's name, Missy Pyle. Where I know her from, I can't believe I wasn't picturing this. She was Miss Beauregard in the new Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. She was Violet's mother.
Shit.
Yeah, that's why, like, chewing the bubble gum and everything like that. That's why I can picture her being like that same annoying character. But yeah.
But I mean, they because like they play that character so like overly emotionally, and you can see it's really funny because you'll see a lot of the time, like in the public sphere, that you'll hear a lot of Republican or more like right oriented candidates speak a lot about how the more like Democrat or like slightly left more oriented people, they will try to appeal to emotions as a sort of a slight. But the reality is that the right side appeals to emotions too.
We
They
all
just
do it.
appeal
Yeah.
to different ones.
Yeah, we all do it.
So it's
we
like,
all do a whole lot of projection. I've noticed we do a lot of like pointing out of like the other doing something when we do it just as much.
yeah, I mean, you project a lot. You do a lot of projecting.
I do a shit ton. Yeah.
I mean, not me.
No.
I think I've told you this before because I say it all the time. One of my favorite things Craig has ever said. I asked him, I was like, Craig, are you projecting? And he said to me, are you projecting?
I'm not projecting. You're
like,
projecting.
It's like, okay. But yeah, I mean, a lot of us do it. It's a really common thing. So, I mean, you see like the way that she does things and she appeals to people's emotions, because I think that so many of us have this sort of weird desire for a sense of justice.
Yeah.
And when we perceive someone as a victim, no matter who they are, it's back to that whole black and white thinking thing. And the reason why this movie is so fucking crazy is because that character is trying to sort of get the audience that they have really riled up about something, to create this villain, victim, like a perpetrator, victim, oppressor, victim kind of thing.
Like you're saying with the perceiving of a victim. Look at how they dress Andy up on TV. Yeah, to make her like seem super innocent and everything. Like, yeah, it's like the thing that's the scariest about that character is that she is a very accurate portrait of reality. Yeah. I am blown away. I mean, this happens multiple times, but like this movie is 7 years old. This is 2014, and like we are 7 years later, further down that slide of the media doing this more and more and being even more divisive. And it's just like it's interesting to see, like, this movie could have come out in 2021 literally and been like, hey, this is, supposed to be a wake-up call about the media probably, just kind of misleading you, selling you a narrative and pushing you further and further apart. Like, this came out 7 years ago. Like, how do we not, like, when media like this has been trying to open our eyes to what's going on for the past 7 years, like, how do we how do we do better than what we are doing right now?
Dude, did I tell you that I went back and watched the debate between Nixon and Kennedy?
No, really? That would be interesting to see. Was there only one back then? Was it like, did they only do one debate, or is it?
I think there was more than one. I think there were a few.
Okay.
I want to say there were like 3.
Well, yeah, because now there's supposed to be 3 every. Like we only had 2 the last race because of, I guess, COVID. There was supposed to be 1 remote debate, and they couldn't agree on terms, I guess. But
I believe the first one is the one that I watched, and you'll never guess what they were talking about.
I bet a bunch of this. I bet you could take the transcripts, have Biden and Trump act them out, and I don't think there would be a lot that would be out of place.
There's a lot that they were talking about how teachers need to be paid more.
Yep.
And they were talking about the national deficit.
Yep.
And how to fix that.
Yep. COVID. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Somehow. Nixon knew.
It's hey, Watergate, man. Scandals and shit. And it's interesting because like civil rights actually were not during the initial campaign. I think Kennedy said some things, but didn't really worry much about anything other than the space race until like toward the end.
Gotcha.
Of his life actually.
Yeah.
But it was interesting just to see that they were talking about more or less the same shit.
Yeah.
With a few differences. They're even talking about like how to help the economy, like how to help farmers and things like that. And it's just like, wow, these are like more or less the same shit.
Yeah.
It's like the reason why when I ever hear anyone say people these days, I'm like, people aren't that much different.
That is so disheartening that it's like teachers are still underpaid. Like we literally like they've been trying for 50 years at this point.
Like
not to like placate or whatever, but it's like that is like one of the most important jobs we have. Like that is the like creating and teaching our youth. Like, yeah, it's insane.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's frightening, but it is interesting because you and I even like at our age, we would say things like, what happened to Tom Brokaw and Peter Jennings?
Yeah, right.
Those guys were on point. Connie Chung was completely unbiased. But it's just idealizing a past.
Yeah.
If you look back and like watch a lot of the news coverage that they did, the only thing unbiased about them is their non-regional accent.
Yeah. I mean, I do think that things have definitely changed to be noticeably more clickbaity and noticeably more like sensationalized, but you are right that there was never a point where there was just a dude getting on the TV and giving you the straight facts. There was always opinion tied to it, like that from the beginning. Yeah, 100%.
Oh yeah, and hey man, back in my day there wasn't no clicking. Y'all don't even know what it was like to take your mouse apart and clean your ball. Nowadays, all these mice have these little lasers coming at the bottom. But yeah, it is because that character that we're currently talking about, the Ellen, like kind of, I would say it's more of like a talk show host really than a news anchor, almost like a Good Morning America kind of thing.
But unfortunately, I would say in 2021, a lot of people would consider their news anchor. I would like if you took a poll. I think there are a lot of people that would say like, oh yeah, I get my news from Ellen, whatever, like, and that is their news. Like how many people do you think would say they get their news from Tucker Carlson or like who would, Rachel Maddow would be like an opinion piece on the left,
Trevor
right? Like,
Noah.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. How many people get their news, quote unquote, from the Daily Show? Exactly. Like that there is a definite problem with media literacy. I would argue. Yeah.
Agreed. Yeah. And a lot of people, instead of paying attention to the last thing the president said, they turn on Saturday Night Live and look at the impression of what the president said.
Yeah. So much so that there are so many presidential impressions that we think they are the actual presidential quotes. Like there are Will Ferrell moments that we think are real George W. Bush moments.
W actually ironically takes credit for some of that stuff now.
I'm sure, yeah.
He'll actually tell you he said shit he didn't and like give a weird kind of smirk.
That's
like
awesome.
In interviews. I think it's pretty cool. Like, okay, look, say what you want to about Dub, but that dude never really took himself that seriously, never has, probably never will. And I do kind of like that personally about him, like as a person. I think it's fun.
I
that
feel
the guy
like
doesn't take himself seriously.
I feel like most of the people that would have a big problem with George W. Bush, depending on their level of really looking into it, I think their problems are mostly with Cheney. I think that the big, like most of the people that have an issue there, it's like they kind of argue that George W. Bush was almost kind of the either willful idiot or was just kind of like drug along with it. But I think a lot of the issues were with Cheney kind of basically making war a commodity while, after coming from Halliburton. And, there are some strange things that went on there.
And if you'd like for us to start a political podcast on a bi-monthly basis, please comment below and let us know.
Yeah, please.
Seriously. Let us know.
We could have like an interesting like perspective for that, just because we do have like we agree on a good amount of things, but disagree on enough that it's not just like an echo chamber. It wouldn't just be like, oh, of course I agree with
Well, it's like, and the best thing, I mean, especially for you, is like, oh, fuck, I agree with him. What do I do? I know. I'll get out my devil's advocate. Haha.
Yep.
The conversation commences.
Exactly.
Which is good. It's a good thing to have a good devil's advocate around. So I'm trying to go through my notes here about anything else that I had. Okay, I really hope that I'm not about to steal your favorite line. But there is one thing that is said in the film that is unbelievably cynical, in my opinion.
Okay.
But might actually be just a little bit more true in most cases than any of us would probably be comfortable admitting. There's a scene where toward the end of things they're talking about toward the end of the marriage, but this is when they've gotten back together and she's essentially taken his sperm sample and gotten herself pregnant. Yep. He says to Amy, Nick says, all we did was resent each other and try to control each other and cause each other pain. And then Amy replies with, that's marriage.
Yeah, that's pretty... I completely disagree. I mean, okay, so I've never been married, but I have to disagree that cannot always be marriage. Maybe that's part of it.
Right, yeah. In many cases, it's not, but some marriages are just that fucking dysfunctional.
But what I'm saying, though, is I think that may be a small part of even the best marriages. I'm saying that is not the totality of marriage, but that may be even a quote-unquote perfect, successful marriage may have a sliver of that. When you are with someone day in and day out for years and years and years and years, like there may just be a part of that comes along with it. It may not be intentional. It may not be a large part. There may be unconditional love tied to that, but I think that just may be there sometimes.
And if you can communicate in a healthy fashion, resentment won't happen.
True,
if you understand boundaries and have a good concept of self and others, then controlling each other won't happen. And if you have communicated well, you don't resent each other because of that, and you do not attempt to control each other because you have a good self-concept and a good concept of others, then you probably won't want to cause each other pain. But there's moments where people do get angry, and I think the last one, the cause each other pain thing, can happen quite a lot. Like when you get angry and say fucked up things, like like one of the guys I used to work with, I was like 23 or 24, and he was in his late 20s. And he had been married for I think 3 years, and he told me that sometimes, like when you get in a fight with your partner, like you'll say stuff like it wasn't even true, but you'll say it like, why did you leave time on the microwave? You were a whore in college. It's like, wait, what? Like that's not even true. It's like, fuck you, and then you slam the door, then get in your car and leave.
I was homeschooled.
What?
If you were a whore while you were homeschooled, there are funny incestuous connotations there.
I feel like there's a Will Ferrell sketch there, which is funny because we were just talking about him. But I think that there's probably a little bit there, but I think that some people like just have this idea that they're just gonna quote stick with it. And definitely. Even like when it's bad, and like because I work I without disclosing too much, like I'm a pretty outgoing person. So like certain people, and not many, but certain people are just more comfortable people that would be more outgoing also. And they end up being pretty comfortable with me. So like the thing that you're saying though, that there are some aspects of that in marriage, I think you're right. And I think that sometimes as people, like when so much time passes, like think that's another thing you were sort of mentioning too, that like there's going to be periods of time where shit like this will happen.
I after hearing your explanation,
I mean,
I do think you
not
are
like Gone Girl.
Yeah, no, I think
I mean.
you are more right. I think there are the kernels of this, but in a healthy relationship, it will not develop. But I do think that yes, you may have, even in a healthy relationship, there may be the tendencies and the like just. Have you ever, do you know the term like the call to the void? Have you ever heard that? Like, have you ever been driving and just had that split second, like, want to like veer into the other lane? You're not gonna do it, but it's just that like, has that never like that like split second moment of like, I could just crash head onto this other car? Like, do you are
Yeah,
people have called it like the call to the void? I've heard some other like, or like when you're near a like a ledge that you're like, oh, I could just jump off right now. That kind of like,
that's
okay,
the thing. Yeah. That's how I've heard it described, as the latter
okay,
most often. That the reason why people are so scared is that it would just take us just a second and off the edge you go, and
yeah.
like that's it. Nothing could really stop you.
Yep. See, I think that that's like what I'm trying to get to with that the kernels of like, you may have the instinct almost, or the intuition to like, oh, we could hurt each other, we could do that, but like, you know better and you don't do that, and because it's a healthy relationship, you're able. But I feel like just part of being human, there's that kind of little like almost sadistic psychopathic troll within you, that it's like when you get so close to someone, you know how to push their buttons, and there's just this moment where you're like, oh, I could fuck with them so bad right now.
We even did an old episode about like psychopaths and sort of exploring your own tendencies toward that. I mean, that I get what you're saying, is that there is a temptation there, because like when you are when you're like that close to someone in like a relationship or a marriage, like even a very close friend, when you trust somebody to a certain extent, to a very extreme extent, you're essentially giving them the ability to hurt you severely.
Yeah.
And that person could, if they wanted to, abuse that. And it would be, I think that's a really good kind of comparison. It would be just like, thinking about just, a couple feet this way, and like just turn the steering wheel a couple inches, and or like I could just plop right off this, and what would stop me from jumping right off of this bridge right now?
Yep. Yeah, you know that power you have, and how easy it would be to just like destroy everything in 1 second. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, it's the constant temptation that's always there, that like the one day at work, if I piss somebody off enough, what is really there to stop from balling up a fist and just like laying into me hard? Like, what is, like, and when someone says something mean to you in a bar, like there's not much stopping you from shoving them.
Yeah.
Or whatever. And I guess that goes for anything that we all have the ability in many, many situations to go into the void.
Oh yeah.
As you said. And it's like, and sometimes many of us wonder, like, what really did stop me that one time?
I mean, a lot of it's self-preservation. A lot of it are just the societal norms and rules we have created, that it says like, oh, I should not do that right now, or but yeah, sometimes it is just like, what is it that prevents you from doing some sort of crazy action that is literally, and yeah, it is crazy. Like it could be like you're talking about, like a split second away from a life-changing event for multiple people. Like, yeah, it's kind of insane sometimes.
There's another thing that I would like to mention, that Nick's sister.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Speaking of that, I completely forgot we're supposed to have a new segment this episode too.
Oh yeah. Well, I think you just gave your answer away, but there's a maybe, I don't know. Yeah, we do have a new segment. I forgot about that too. I'm actually excited to do it. This will be fun. That there's, I feel like this has happened with at least someone you dated like way back. You ever like notice when you break up with somebody and like all your fucking friends and all of your family members, like, I never liked her.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say they all fuck her. I've definitely had that.
When my ex tried to like humiliate me by saying I was bad in bed, and all of his friends disagreed with him.
That's good. But no, I have definitely had that though, where it's like they would not tell you that when you were with them, but all of a sudden like the relationship's gone and like yeah they were, God, yeah, I never liked them, they were a bitch. It's like, why did you not tell me this for the past 9 months? Like, where were you?
And I've got to the point now where, like, if I don't like someone one of my friends is dating, I'll never shut up about it. I will constantly tell them all the time, because whenever that shit goes to hell for the exact same reasons that I thought that it would, I'm the only person at peace.
Okay, I thought you were
said
gonna
it the whole time.
I've been holding it, and I told you so for 7 months, and I'm just ready for. I told you so.
Yeah, but it's because everybody else can feel like shit because they let their friend make that mistake for so long. Whereas like I tried to like, reason. And then when I say I never liked her, they're like, oh, I know. Like,
yeah,
okay.
yeah. At least you're vocal about it, right? Like, yeah.
Yeah, and because like and I've had that happen too many times. And you know what? His sister never liked Amy.
True. Yeah, very true.
And I feel like maybe that should have been the first red flag that she was up to something sinister, was when you found out that the sister didn't like her after you got over the fact that her nickname was also a verb.
Now, with that being said, you should not always take someone else's, like, if you've got just like an over controlling sibling, they may just be like literally like, oh, I never liked that person. But I would say with Nick and Margot's relationship, they had an open, no bullshit relationship. I would think that like Nick would take Margot's advice as, trustworthy. Yeah, when Margot didn't like Amy, there's gonna be a reason why. I don't think it's like Margot did not come across as like someone that would just be like almost petty or vindictive or not like her for some sort of silly reason. But
yeah, that's true. You do have to have some discernment about like the actual like motivations or real like reasons why.
Yeah. I mean, because you could have a good friend that may just give you shitty advice or may have bad, like it can happen. So you could have a friend that's literally like, oh yeah, I don't like them because insert some stupid reason here. And, you may take that as gospel because they are your, Ellen, they're your Tucker Carlson. They wear a bow tie and, you take their voice as gospel and, you may miss out on a good thing, but.
And, man, after this, like, I'd like to think that it was always kind of wary or aware, or like I had a healthy skepticism about things that I heard in different media outlets. But after watching this, I realized maybe I didn't put things under as much scrutiny as I should have.
Yeah.
And I've become much, much, much more aware of a lot of things lately about like what I hear people say, what is in fact an opinion, and really thinking about it, because so many things we take for granted as like axioms or like a priori, where it's like a self-evident thing. And I recognize how much I give other people way too much grace in that, and how often I allow myself too much grace and just assuming things are self-evident. Like, I had a conversation with a coworker recently, not someone on my team, but just someone on another department at work, in which they made an assertion. And I took a moment to explain to the person that when I talk to other people, if I express a belief, that out of respect for others, I explain to them why I believe the thing to be true. I don't just think they should just sit there and accept it because I said it.
Yeah.
And then myself and this individual had a somewhat interesting conversation as a result of it. But that's the thing, is like the thing that was said by that individual, they just thought was a unreducible given.
Yep.
And there's so many things that we think of being as just a given that you cannot reduce any lower or like make anything else, that it's like, it's just scary, man. Our brains are scary. Like how irrational we all are capable of being, even the most reasonable people among us. It's fucking terrifying. And that maybe is the scariest part of this film to me.
Yeah. I think one of the big things that I want to get, like with the media literacy, like we all suck at it. I mean, I am trying to get better at it. I am someone that I feel like I at least recognize the problem with myself, and I do try to get better, but we all suck at it. One thing that I have done that I think this is kind of cool. I like watching opinion pieces from side X or side Y being reviewed by a person from the opposite side. I like to watch a Steven Crowder video while someone from the left is watching it and picking apart what he's saying, because I get to hear his opinions and then I get to hear someone else disregard those. And then I like doing the other side. I like to watch someone on the left's opinion piece while someone on the right watches it and you know, picks it apart. It's not the, you know, best way of doing things, but I do think like you, rather than just having an echo chamber, introducing yourself to opinions from multiple angles. You may find yourself that like all you're hearing from one side is stuff that makes you want to roll your eyes, but at least you're hearing it. I do think that like at least being somewhat exposed to those ideas rather than just like, you know, keeping them away and keeping yourself sheltered from them, I think is a very important thing. The other thing that I think is very important to do with media like that is follow the money. This is there's a reason this saying is important. Whenever someone is telling you something that is fact and they are making an assertion like that, look into possibly who is paying this person. And if there is a reason why certain corporate interests may have this person giving you a certain narrative of a certain thing. There's that happens a lot in media where all of a sudden, you know, the financial interests will change, you know, someone's what they're telling you. And just look for that. That is one thing where I think very often where we let these people they become our dogmatic voices. We let them sell us an idea and they're making a lot of money off of it, and all it's doing is it's putting stress in our lives while they make money, and that's like you're giving people a lot of power when you do that.
Oh yeah, I mean that's extremely true, and that when if the people that control the information control whoever controls the information controls the people. Is that how it goes? That when the people know who controls the information, then that can make those people a little harder to control.
Yeah.
And you know, like okay, please feel free to ridicule me as much as you would like for what I'm about to say. But something fucking crazy happened to me recently that I realized.
What's that?
So we did, I don't even know the name of the film. The movie about the social media algorithms.
Oh, yeah. Social Dilemma, right? I think.
Yeah. That was it. Yeah, Social Dilemma. And if you haven't seen that episode, check it out.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And I think we said you should watch it. Don't want to spoil that part, but after you watch it, watch our episode. So yeah, I very often what I'll do is I'll recognize, because the only thing that I'm on that you could call social media is YouTube, and every now and then I will recognize that some of my news feed's a little too much one way or the other.
Yeah.
That, you know, one sort of like more like left video or like extreme left video, a liberal video. Sometimes I'll listen to I tend to listen to center right stuff if I hear it. Sometimes a little more like never alt, but
that happened to me when I got more into like gun videos. I started getting a lot of like right wing stuff that like went along with it. Yeah.
And that is one of the perils of being someone that's ideologically more central, and then being into an activity that tends to be people that are more like one way.
Yep.
And what happened was even people that say dumb shit will have something interesting to say sometimes. Like not everybody is a buffoon. I mean, there's even some quotes by Hitler that were somewhat like clever. If you just take it out of context, if you just forget who said it and just take the phrase or the saying or the quote on its own. You know, I mean, Malcolm X had some crazy shit to say that was probably not a good idea, but he had all kinds of shit that was fucking great. And just because, you know, and I say this constantly, just because someone doesn't say something great all the time doesn't mean that there can't be truth that comes from their mouth.
Correct. And the opposite of that. Yeah.
Yeah, and while Ben Shapiro is possibly the most lawyery lawyer ever to lawyer, there was a period of time where I had so much of his shit coming up that like, and recognize that every now and then I'd be like, oh yeah, that's a good point. Like he'd make some
Yeah.
interesting points here and there.
Yep.
Here and there.
Yep.
And what happened is over time, I stopped like assessing him in a reasonable lens.
Yes. Yep.
And I was just like, Ben Shapiro said that. Must be, that's interesting. I never thought of it that way. And then one day, one of our close friends, Craig, who's on our other music show with us and sometimes on this one, he said something about something kind of smarmy that Ben Shapiro said. And I was like, oh my God. Like I stopped being like discerning about the things that he says now. Like,
you let your
happened?
you let your like objective guard down because the Trojan horse got in.
And the thing is like that guy's really good at like stuck premises.
Yes.
And like he does a lot of really sneaky stuff like with his arguments. And
I know you're a fan of the other one too, but Jordan Peterson does that a lot too. Where he will have have very good advice in the self-help category, and then somehow it makes it seem like his political stance is where that comes from. And then it's like there becomes this connection between the like good advice and this other stuff. And it's like, well, hold on. It's not actually that, like, cause and effect is not actually there.
Yeah, and like I agree with you completely. Like there's a few like political and social issues that he tries to talk about, and he basically just says a bunch of wishy-washy horse shit that's like so fucking vague. There's like no way you could make any sense of it, and then the conclusion has nothing to do with the premises, and then the people that are listening are just like, I like rule number 4. So I'm gonna listen to everything you say.
Yeah, because it is like if you create that, it's creating that brand of trustworthiness that we talked about before, and that is like it can be a good thing or it can be misused. And that is like I do think that I love that we got to that with this film, because that is like I talked about with a movie that's 7 years old. That is a big part of our lives today. That is, I think, only gotten worse than it was 7 years ago.
Oh yeah, I agree. I mean, 100%. But you know, like I'm glad that you know when I kind of let my guard down, so to speak, with Ben Shapiro, that I had a friend say something. I was like, oh, what the fuck? Oh my God. So I went back and listened to like the last 3 things that I'd heard him say, like little clips. And I was like, wow, there's a lot of horseshit in here. And then I was like, okay, I need to get some more like more liberal stuff in my feed again. And then what'll happen is when I start to get a little more left and I don't see very much of the more right stuff, then I'll get some more right stuff in there.
The pendulum swings a little too far away at one side.
Being aware of it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and I do think the biggest thing is we are both people that at least to some extent value the being uncomfortable. There's a lot of people that don't like that. There is discomfort that comes along with hearing ideas that you disagree with. It is way easier and way more comfortable to sit in your echo chamber and only hear people tell you what you want to hear about the world. So I understand why a lot of people don't do it, but I do think it is an important aspect of growth to challenge your ideas and say, like, why do I believe this? Why am I accepting this as fact? Like, yeah.
Yeah, and honestly, like I recognize that what I did with like stopping sort of examining that particular person, like, in a reasonable light is a human thing, but I was also very like intensely ashamed of it, that like, wow, I can't believe I let myself get there with this particular individual. And you know, but the thing that you were talking about, I've only done that a few times, but it's a really good idea to like listen to like a leftish sort of person talking with a right leaning person's commentary and vice versa.
Yeah, I love
it. Is interesting to hear like
one of the first videos that did that for me, it was when I was starting to listen to some of Ben Shapiro, and I saw a video of Destiny, the left-leaning Twitch streamer, reacting to a Ben Shapiro YouTube video where he was like, the title of it was something like, "This is all you need to know to show that Ben Shapiro is dishonest," or something. And I was like, I'd be interested in seeing what that is. And it was a video that I had actually watched and, listened to what he said and thought that he made good points during all of it. None of it set off my bullshit detector. And then I watched someone pick it apart, paying a little more attention. I was like, oh, he snuck all of that by me. There was a lot that it was like, wow, that I did not at all, no part of me saw that. So yeah, it is sometimes it helps where, and again, not that other people are experts, but when there's a dude like Destiny that spends 14 hours a day in front of his computer listening to political commentary and reading articles, I don't have that amount of time. So sometimes there's people that are just, more practiced on something than I am, where it's I may listen to, I don't want to defer to them as oh, they're obviously dogma, but they just may be more practiced at something and are able to do it a little quicker than I am or whatever.
Yeah, and it's interesting because there's with Ben Shapiro in particular, since that's who we're talking about, there are some things that he says that on the surface make a whole lot of sense, but he uses them in a way that is not okay. So, for instance, the well-known "facts don't care about your feelings." That is a true statement. But what he does is he uses the term to assert that what he's saying is a fact.
Yes. Yep.
But there's many occasions, and it's actually interesting because after I had this realization that Craig was like, "Bro, the fuck are you doing, Smack?" And I re-listened to a couple of things. I recognized that some of the things that he was saying, facts don't care about your feelings, because he's first of all telling me that these things are facts that he's saying.
Yeah.
And I looked up some of the information, like some of the things he was saying that actually ended up being stereotypes about certain groups of people. And I looked at certain statistics for certain lifestyle differences between demographics, and I realized he was wrong.
Yeah.
Dead wrong.
Yep.
And that the things he was saying were not okay because they were related to stereotypes that were also not facts.
Yeah.
So apparently fallacies don't care about your feelings either.
That's good. But yeah, but I definitely I know you were saying, you felt bad that it almost got, but don't be, there is a reason why the dude's so successful. He is good at sneaking this past people. And it's even, I would pride yourself on the fact that you eventually caught it. You know what I mean? Don't beat yourself on the fact that they snuck it by you for however long. It's just take pride in the fact that you aren't 8 years deep into being a paying member to the Daily Wire and
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, because I also I didn't foolishly dig my heels in and stand my ground about something, because I actually thought to myself oh wait, my friend just said this. My friend's not gonna lie to me on purpose.
Yep.
So I thought maybe I should examine this. So then I did, and I was like, oh fuck, he was right. Shit.
And that's for anyone out there, on either side, people can get deep into propaganda that is misinformation. The only change that is going to come from that is going to come from close loved ones. They're not going to see some YouTube video from someone on the other side that is going to change their life, change their mind. It is going to come from slow, continual interaction with people that they care about. So if you do see friends that are going off the deep end in any sort of internet, if you've got a flat earther friend, if you've, anything, just, talk to them. That is don't make them feel stupid. Don't link them things, showing them that they're wrong. Talk to them and reach out. And that's that, the understanding, there just needs to be more communication, more understanding between us.
Yeah, have gentle discourse and friendly discussions about things. But yeah, I agree. We need to engage with each other a little bit more and use the most important tool in the English language, which is the word why.
The word fuck would like to have a few sentences with you. Is it? If you place why above fuck, there's something you're doing wrong.
It's kind of funny because I can't discredit fuck without using the F word. I don't know. Maybe. Okay. The second.
I rest my case.
Important. Facts don't care about your feelings. But
Exactly.
Yeah, it is interesting. It is interesting how easy that is to do, and it's cool that Do you think that any of, because I wonder how much of this is in the book, do you think that any of the discussion that this movie has provoked between the two of us was the intent of the creators?
100% with the movie. I am interested to know how much the book goes into the media part of it, but I mean, I would say the movie specifically put the trial by public opinion, the media, all of that forefront to make a point. So yes, I mean, the fact that the person who wrote the screenplay was the same person who wrote the book, I'm assuming that was probably also a big part of the book, but I can't vouch for that. But I think they had a little bit of an axe to grind there.
Yeah, I mean the movie itself for sure, and you know I'm really glad they made a book out of this one.
Fuck yeah. Dude, let's do our brand new section. I don't have a scene for it yet, but movie crush. It was your idea to do this, so it's just the biggest crush from the movie. Who did you have a crush on in the movie, I guess is the question.
I mean, I feel like it's pretty obvious who I'm gonna pick for this one.
Ben Affleck.
And for me, I gotta say Neil Patrick Harris, man.
Oh, more than Ben?
Oh yeah, definitely more than Ben, dude. He wasn't no Batfleck in this one.
Well,
okay,
hold on. I have a question though. Are we doing character or actor? Because did you have a crush on Desi or on Neil Patrick Harris?
Porque no los dos.
Because Desi's, as we talked about, pretty scary, pretty dangerous, and pretty problematic, right? Or do you like that? Yeah, are you writing a letter to someone on death row right now? Do you like that danger? Is that?
Yeah, no, someone on Death Row Records. Suge Knight and I are pen pals.
That's fair.
Just kidding. That would be cool, but no. Yeah, no, it's just I like the it's almost the fact that like I found the character like weird. Like I want to know more about why the fuck you're like this.
That's fair.
Like what's up with you? And also like I mean it is semi-ironically like me saying Neil Patrick Harris, yeah. But you know it's like I mean come on, it's fucking Barney from How I Met Your Mother. Come on, like
suit up.
Like the most amazing womanizer character ever is a gay man, and I fucking am in love with that idea. I think that's fucking great.
It is true, yeah, that's true. So my favorite crush in this movie, I'm actually really struggling between two. If they could somehow take some qualities from the two and make a juxtaposition. So my boy answer is of course Andy. I think Emily Ratajkowski is one of the most attractive women on the face of the planet. I have been a big fan of hers for years and years. But like her character in this is just flat. I mean, like she's sorry, she is definitely not flat. I mean, her character is emotionally not really there in this movie. Doesn't really, you know, like she doesn't leave a lot to. So the personality, my answer as a real person would have to be Margot. That like she's hilarious in this. She has a lot of one-liners. Her interaction with Nick is hilarious. So.
Yeah, I mean, I actually like as a character, like I kind of like really enjoyed like the banter and stuff. Did you know that she played Proxima Midnight?
Yes.
In Marvel.
Yep.
I just found that out IMDbing just now.
Yep. She was also in a show that I loved called The Leftovers.
Oh, I never saw that, but apparently it was supposed to be fucking great.
It was very interesting. At least the first season was awesome. I don't remember much about the second season, but actually there were 3 seasons apparently. Holy shit. I need to catch back up on The Leftovers. The first season though was like honestly probably one of my favorite seasons of television ever.
I'll have to check it out then, man. Like there's not a lot of series I really enjoy. So, and if you say that it's good, then I'll scope it out. But you know, like, and Carrie Coon, like there's something about like her demeanor, her, like even the way her voice sounds like that I kind of like. So I mean, I can totally see why that would be your crush on this one. And particularly the character, because she seems like such a good-natured, kind of fun-loving person. You know, the one character in the film that you don't think is completely fucked up.
Yeah, right. If you could pick any character from this movie to sit and have a beer with, it'd probably be Margot, right?
Margot would be super cool.
One that's not going to kill you.
Yeah, well, hopefully not. I would hope. So yeah, I mean that was a fun segment.
Yeah,
I think it'll be fun to do a few more.
Yeah, I
Because
like
I've
that,
thought on
actually.
several occasions that I talk about like crushes and movies all the time, and I was like, it would be fun if we just did a segment. So, and if you hated that or you liked it, please let us know in the comments below. We'll probably keep doing it, but if you completely hate it, we'll stop.
I like the segment enough that unless someone gives me a good reason why they hate it, we're keeping it. I think it's funny.
Pose your premises for your argument in the comments below.
Exactly.
And we might consider it.
Yeah. If you stand behind your argument good enough, like, well, yeah, we'll take it into account. With that being said, you ready for the one segment I do have a scene for? You got a favorite line for me?
Oh yeah, man.
Is there any chance? We definitely didn't pick the same line, right?
I sincerely doubt we did this time.
Is yours a cute, funny throwaway line?
Sort of.
Okay. You go first.
So this one is the reason why I picked this line. I think is because one, I think that the actor that played this role doesn't get a really good chance often to really shine in roles, even though he's a really skilled actor and writer, and I believe he directs too. And I think that his character in this film was brilliant, and I think the way that he played it was fucking great. And he completely slayed everything about every moment on screen that he had. And this is a little clever quip that he tosses at somebody in the midst of a bit of smartassery from another character. And it's just one little line completely out of context. A monkey who doesn't get the lethal injection.
That was a good throwaway line. I liked that one. Yeah, I like that one. That's fair. I feel
does some good fucking work too.
He does. Yeah, 100%. 100%. Okay. I feel a little silly for picking my line, but I fucking had to. If you didn't catch the line, I had to pick it. It's the name of our podcast. The line was, "Oh, the bar. Love the name. Very meta."
Yeah.
I mean, I can't let that line go by without drawing some attention to it. The fact that someone called something meta in the movie, yeah, I love it.
Talk about the meta line on the Metacast.
My actual favorite line is, "I swear you two are the most fucked up people I've ever known, and I specialize in fucked up." I thought that was actually a brilliantly written line, but I had a
good one.
Yeah. Dude, yeah, but fucking like I said it earlier. Tyler Perry blew me away in this. I had no idea who that was for the first like 20 minutes he was on screen, and then looked it up and was like, "That's fucking Medea? Are you kidding me?" Like,
yeah. Well, there's something about lawyer characters that I think is really intriguing when you look at how people play them, and a lot of people have played lawyers.
Yep.
Another person that did like a really weird lawyer is Orlando Jones played a lawyer in Biker Boys.
I don't think I've seen that.
It's cool because you see the dichotomy between him like in a motorcycle club wearing like a cut, like a leather vest with a name on it on his super cool motorcycle. Then you see him like at the police station doing his lawyer thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you get to see Gene Hackman, Tom Cruise, Keanu Reeves, like watching all these people play attorneys and shit. Kevin Bacon played a military lawyer. It's always fun to see people in lawyer roles because like there's so many different ways that you can play a lawyer. And I think Tyler Perry just kicked ass in it. So sorry I just derailed the favorite line thing to just talk about how fucking great Tyler Perry is.
No, we were done with favorite line. We were but one thing, we got off track with the last week and everything. Like, I don't remember whose turn it is to offer suggestions or like who picks next movie. I'm so lost.
Didn't we just spin on this one? Oh no, I gave you the hints and then you picked Gone Girl.
Okay, that's right. Oh, so I'm supposed to give you hints right now. Yeah. Fuck. Okay. Let me pull these. Yeah, I 100% have them prepared right here. What do you mean that I wouldn't have hints? Do you want to see a movie that is loosely based on the creation of a religion, or do you want to see a movie that's supposed to be scary?
Um, huh. Those weirdly sounded like you were making them up as you went along.
No, I've had these written down for at least a week.
Couldn't be right.
Procrastinate me? No. You're looking at the list right now, trying to figure out which one's supposed to be which. I saw your cursor appear in the Google.
Your cursor is too. I was like wondering if there might be a hint.
Oh, I'm just clicking around randomly.
Gotta love Google Drive. Oh, you're fucking me up now. Okay. All right. I really am like. I don't try to figure out what's going to happen at the end of the movie, but I do try to figure out what your hints are for, and I never get it right.
Well, I mean, is one of those more appealing to you? One of them's about the creation of a religion. The other one's just supposed to be a scary movie. You don't even like scary movies. You
not all manipulation is bad, by the way. Do I want to go with the one that I want to pick, or do I want to go with the one that I think you want me to pick? Because they're not the same.
No, you should pick the one that you want to pick.
Okay, I'm gonna go with the one that's supposed to be scary.
All right.
Because that should mean that it's not.
My opinion of it is not that scary, but I think it was still very well done. I still enjoyed the way it was done.
You said that word you're not supposed to say. Grace.
Get out.
Oh, dude, I've never seen it.
Yeah, the movie's Get Out for next week. So you've said you've never seen it. I'm excited to see your reaction to this one.
I'm excited.
It's an interesting one. It is. I mean, it was Peele, right? It was Key or Peele that did it, wasn't it? Jordan Peele.
Yeah, Jordan Peele. Yeah.
Yeah. So his first stab at what's supposed to be a horror movie. But yeah, like I said, in my opinion, not super scary, but still pretty cool. I do think this is going to give us something to talk about. In a lot of people's opinions, more of an understated movie. I think a lot of what's supposed to be the content and what the movie's really about is, the subtext, not exactly what's going on right in front of you, which I think that kinds of be more our bread and butter with a lot of this stuff. So for a horror movie, it's not just going to be, like Jason slashing people up and stuff like that. There's a little more, what am I trying to say? Like mentally going on there?
What's the word they use? Cerebral.
Thank you. That is exactly the term I was going for. Thank you. Well, guys, that is gonna bring us to the end of another episode of the Metacast Movie Show. If you are watching this on YouTube and you've enjoyed the discussion, please hit the like button, subscribe to keep up to date, and comment below and tell us how you felt about Gone Girl.
If you don't want us to be gone, girl. It was so weak. Okay, screw this up. Or if you want to further keep up to date or even join us as a guest on a future episode, please join our Discord. The link is in the description below. We will be live next week on Wednesday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on twitch.tv/TylaTV.
Thank you everyone for listening, and I hope you guys have a great week.